basically told Miss Pike and the doctor.
Please, let me just love my
Please hold Miss Pike and the doctor.
mom. I love you. I love you too.
Krista Pike, at just 19 years old, was a certified piece of work when she committed one of the most gnarly murders in Tennessee history. She was chilling at a Job Corps center, but she was seriously off the rails, full of jealousy over her man, Daryl Shipp. Pike was convinced that 19-year-old Colleen Slemmer was trying to steal Shipp, and that beef became her motive for a calculated, terrifying plan. This wasn't some minor high school drama. Pike's rage went next-level sketchy. She, Shipp, and another friend, Shadola Peterson, successfully lured Slemmer out of her dorm late one night, convincing the victim they just needed to talk it out in the woods. No cap. Slemmer had no clue that this chat was actually a one-way ticket to a savage, brutal execution. They had zero intention of letting her walk back home free. This whole setup was a slam dunk for disaster, proving that teenage envy, when mixed with a sicko mindset like Krista Pike's, results in a done-deal nightmare.
What went down in those cold Tennessee woods was straight savage. Seriously, this is where the zero chill factor hits hard. Pike, along with Shipp, immediately started to throw hands, brutally assaulting and torturing Colleen Slemmer. Shadola Peterson acted as the lookout for this hot mess. But Pike wasn't satisfied with just a beating. She was truly wiped out by rage and was set on ending Colleen's life. She grabbed a massive chunk of asphalt and literally crushed Slemmer's head until the victim stopped breathing. But it gets gnarlier. Pike then used a meat cleaver and a razor blade to slash the body repeatedly before performing the final, terrifying act, carving a massive, upside-down pentagram, a satanic symbol, deep across Colleen's chest. This wasn't just a murder. This was a deliberate display of pure, horrifying darkness. Pike even doubled down on her sicko behavior by taking a fragment of Colleen's skull, yes, a trophy, wrapping it in a napkin, and stuffing it into her coat pocket. The level of premeditated, demonic cruelty on display here makes this case a slam dunk for the books.
I don't even think I just like that because she made me so mad. And I just couldn't look her doing this. And she was just going, please don't, please don't. I said, shut up, I don't want to talk to you.
The discovery of Slemmer's body quickly turned the entire Job Corps campus into a hot mess as police swarmed the area. The killer made a massive L by telling friends what she did and showing off the sick souvenir, the piece of the victim's skull. Peterson, the lookout, couldn't handle the pressure and was the first to snitch, totally spilling the tea to the detectives about Pike and Shipp. Pike was easily picked up, but despite the slam dunk evidence, she initially tried to play it cool. That facade quickly fell. When questioned, Pike confessed and demonstrated zero chill about her actions, stating, "I knew exactly what I was doing. Everything that I did that night, I knew what I was doing." She was dead serious when she described hitting Slemmer with the asphalt, clearly relishing the detailed brutality. This confession, coupled with the pentagram carving and the literal trophy recovered by police, meant Pike was done deal. Her defense tried to argue mental state, but the court was not buying it for a second.
The jury had zero chill when they delivered the verdict, guilty on all counts. Krista Pike was wiped out by the evidence and the testimony. She became one of the youngest women in U.S. history to be sent up for the death penalty. Her partner in crime, Daryl Shipp, got a life sentence with a chance of parole, which many think is messed up considering the severity. But here's the wildest part. The straight, savage killer who carved a pentagram into a corpse completely ripped apart emotionally as she left the courtroom. The camera captured the raw moment she broke down, desperately begging to hug her mother. "Can I please hold my mom before I go? Please hold me." It was a massive L, a moment of raw, human panic after committing an inhuman act. Pike is still locked up on Tennessee's death row, having failed several times to appeal her sentence. No cap, her legacy is a brutal reminder that sometimes even a teenager can be so off the rails that the only justice left is the ultimate done deal penalty.
Hold of their pain after 4 years, still raw.
I find myself, I'm not that strong of a Christian because I can't turn around and say, I forgive you for killing my son.
You should thank God if you have your family intact and your kids and you're loving them and you're doing things. Thank God for that.
Pedro Espinoza was a piece of work who bought completely into the straight savage life of LA street gangs, turning his world into a hot mess defined by colors and violence. For him, every day was a potential throwdown, fueled by the deeply messed up loyalty to his crew. In 2008, Espinoza, who was 23 at the time of his conviction, decided he was off the rails enough to hunt down a rival. The entire situation was super sketchy from the jump. These territorial disputes often lead to deadly consequences over the slightest perceived disrespect. This case wasn't about a huge drug deal or money. It was about colors and mistaken identity, which is completely unhinged. He was rolling with his crew, pumped up and ready to throw down on anyone they perceived as a threat, thinking he was untouchable and home free to terrorize the neighborhood. He had zero chill for anyone outside his gang, making him a dangerous, ticking time bomb. The victim, 17-year-old Jamae Shaw, was a complete civilian, no cap, just walking home and talking to his girlfriend on his phone when he became Espinoza's mark. Shaw was wearing the wrong color clothing or carrying a bag that made him look like a rival gang member to the completely off-the-rails Espinoza. This was the most massive L possible, a death sentence handed down over a single, stupid visual mistake. Espinoza and his crew pulled up, and the situation immediately went from sketchy to pure horror. Shaw's final moments were spent begging for his life, but Espinoza had zero chill. He shot Shaw execution style, leaving the innocent teenager bleeding out in the street. This was a calculated, cold-blooded murder, a slam dunk for senseless violence that tragically wiped out a young life because of a toxic gang code. The brutal nature of the execution showed Espinoza was a sicko who valued gang loyalty over any shred of human life.
By this court. Therefore, you, the Sheriff of the County of Los Angeles, are hereby commanded to take Pedro Espinoza to the California State Prison at San Quentin and to deliver him into the custody of the warden of said prison.
The murder of Jamae Shaw was so brutal and senseless that the community immediately freaked out, demanding justice. The police went to work, and the evidence against Espinoza quickly became a slam dunk. Witnesses snitched and spilled the tea, confirming Espinoza was the one who pulled the trigger in that cold, execution-style murder. The trial was straight savage, with the prosecution laying out how Espinoza wiped out an innocent kid over a simple color choice. The jury had zero chill for Espinoza's defense, which tried to paint a picture of confusion and self-defense. They were not buying it for a second. The fact that Shaw was on the phone with his girlfriend during the attack added a heartbreaking layer of injustice to the testimony. Espinoza was found guilty of first-degree murder, a done deal that permanently ended his life on the streets. He made a massive L when he decided to live by the gun, but the tragic cost was paid by the innocent victim, Jamae Shaw. The judge delivered a straight, savage verdict. Pedro Espinoza was sent up for the death penalty. It was a done deal. The judge emphasized that Espinoza showed zero remorse for murdering an innocent child over a pathetic gang rivalry. Espinoza's fate became a tragic example of the destruction caused by gang loyalty. a life wiped out for a ridiculous identity, and the perpetrator himself sent up for the most severe punishment. The ultimate irony here is that Espinoza, who was so focused on being a tough guy on the streets, ended up being completely powerless against the justice system. His time as a street cat was permanently over. He traded his sketchy freedom for a small cell on death row, where his life will end for the murder he committed that was all wrong. His story is a powerful, dark reminder of the fatal consequences when a young man decides that gang colors matter more than a human life.
As family and friends said goodbye to this mother and daughter today, we are learning more about the possible motive into why police say a man who lived with them shot and killed the pair.
I just want justice for my girlfriend and her daughter. He's my son and I love him, but I also love them too.
Marlon Joseph, at 29 years old, proved he was a total piece of work who tragically lacked the maturity of an adult when he let a simple, petty beef between children push him completely off the rails. Joseph and his family lived near Carlotta Crowell and her 11-year-old daughter, Kyra Inglet, and a small neighborhood dispute between their kids somehow turned into a straight savage conflict between the parents. Instead of acting like a grown cat and settling the drama civilly, Joseph got super sketched out and let his anger turn into a deadly rage. He clearly showed he was not buying into any kind of peaceful resolution. He made the catastrophic decision to level up the conflict, arming himself and pursuing a confrontation at the Crowell home. This action was unhinged and utterly premeditated. Joseph was ready to throw down on a mother and her child over an issue that was truly trivial. This choice cemented his place as a sicko who deserved the massive L he was about to face, all because he had zero chill over a childish argument. The situation went from sketchy to done deal the second Marlon Joseph arrived at Carlotta Crowell's home, armed and ready to initiate a gnarly execution. Joseph immediately confronted Crowell and proved he had zero chill, shooting Carlotta in a cold-blooded act of violence that was straight savage. But the horror didn't stop there. 11-year-old Kyra Inglet, Carlotta's terrified daughter, witnessed her mother being murdered and immediately freaked out, running for her life. Joseph, this sicko, actually chased the terrified child down, showing he had absolutely no cap on his rage. He caught Kyra and shot her multiple times, ensuring she was completely wiped out too. Hunting down and executing an 11-year-old girl is the darkest form of unhinged cruelty imaginable. Joseph felt home free to destroy an entire family over a ridiculous child's argument, making his crime a definitive slam dunk for pure malice and guaranteeing he would pay the highest price for his savage actions against the mother and the child. Marlon Joseph didn't enjoy his done deal freedom for very long. The evidence surrounding the double murder was an absolute slam dunk against him, leaving the police with zero chill for any of his pathetic excuses. The entire community was ripped apart by the news that a mother and her 11-year-old daughter were killed over a child's petty dispute, ensuring there was massive public pressure for a conviction. Joseph's legal team had a total hot mess trying to defend him because the facts were so devastatingly clear. He willingly brought a gun to a civilian argument and executed two defenseless people, one of them a child. The prosecution painted Joseph as a cold-blooded savage who showed absolutely no remorse for chasing down and shooting a little girl. He was a piece of work who thought he could throw down and get away with it. But the severity of the crime, especially the murder of Kyra Inglet, meant he was facing the ultimate L from the justice system.
To the sentence pronounced for count 1, and therefore there is no credit for time served on count.
The jury wasted no time finding Marlon Joseph guilty of the double murder, and the judge delivered a straight savage sentence: death. It was a done deal that solidified Joseph's place as one of the most reviled killers in the state. He was sent up for the ultimate penalty, a final, necessary consequence for the cold-blooded execution of Carlotta Crowell and her 11-year-old daughter, Kyra Inglet. The memory of Kyra running for her life only to be caught and shot by this unhinged man remains a painful symbol of the trauma he inflicted. Joseph's decision to level up a childish argument with gunfire permanently trashed 2 innocent lives. His case stands as a brutal reminder that adult rage, when fueled by a zero-chill mentality, can lead to the most tragic and senseless loss, making the ultimate penalty the only justice available for the innocent who were wiped out.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bargo.
No.
You've really portrayed yourself as a victim in this case, haven't you?
No, ma'am.
You're just a misunderstood guy, aren't you?
I wouldn't say that.
Everybody seems to misunderstand what you say.
No one's heard what I said other than now.
And people framed you.
Yeah.
Michael Bargo, at just 18 years old, was the ringleader of a seriously sketchy crew who decided that teenage drama was worth a murder rap. Bargo was completely off the rails, full of rage over Seth Jackson, a 15-year-old kid who allegedly made Bargo's ex-girlfriend, Amber Wright, feel uncomfortable. This petty beef quickly escalated into a premeditated execution, proving Bargo was a piece of work with absolutely zero chill. The entire hot mess involved 5 other teenagers, all of whom bought into Bargo's destructive plan. They weren't looking for a fair fight, they were looking to ambush and wipe out the younger kid. No cap, the motive, fueled by jealousy and misplaced loyalty, was trivial, but the consequences were permanent. This whole group was unhinged, setting the stage for a crime that showed how quickly normal suburban life can turn into a straight savage nightmare, all because an 18-year-old was mad about his ex. The plan Bargo cooked up was gnarlier than anything on TV. They successfully lured 15-year-old Seth Jackson to a vacant house, guaranteeing the ambush was a slam dunk. Seth walked in completely home free, having no clue he was stepping into a death trap designed by a crew who had zero chill. The moment Seth arrived, the straight savage beatdown began. He was jumped and beaten severely by the group. But Bargo, the sicko leader, wanted to ensure the job was done deal. He retrieved a gun and shot Seth Jackson multiple times at close range, ending the 15-year-old's life in a brutal, cold-blooded execution. Bargo's friends were watching, confirming that the entire group was complicit in this horrific act. The violence was so extreme and the murder so senseless, all stemming from a petty dispute. This was a massive, unforgivable L for every single person involved, but most tragically for Seth Jackson, whose life was ripped away by an 18-year-old with a gun and too much rage. After the cold-blooded execution, the crew's next step was just as messed up. They decided to burn Seth Jackson's body in a fire pit to destroy the evidence. This action showed a shocking level of disrespect and zero chill for the life they had just wiped out. Their attempts at a cover-up were a total hot mess, proving that even though they were straight savage killers, they were terrible criminals. No cap, the entire group quickly started to snitch and spill the tea on each other almost immediately, crumbling under the pressure of the gnarly crime. It's hard to imagine the utter chaos. 6 teenagers involved in a murder and subsequent body burning, all cracking within hours. Bargo, the piece of work leader, thought he was untouchable, but the police swiftly collected enough evidence to ensure that this entire off-the-rails operation became a slam-dunk pace for the prosecution, guaranteeing they would all face severe consequences for their monstrous actions.
Right. Was it during the course that this murder case was pending?
Right after this case became active.
This, right.
Right.
So it was pending at the time you were charged with actually murder, correct?
Yes.
The jury had zero chill for Michael Bargo or his crew. The evidence of premeditation and the brutal nature of the crime, executing a 15-year-old and burning his body, was overwhelming. Bargo was convicted of first-degree murder, and the judge delivered the ultimate verdict: death. At just 18 years old when he committed the crime, Michael Bargo became one of the youngest individuals ever sent up for the death penalty in Florida, solidifying his place as a notorious killer. This was the final tragic L for the whole sketchy crew. No cap, his life was done deal, traded for a cell on death row, because he couldn't control his anger over a petty girl-related dispute. His case remains a terrifying example of group violence and how quickly a teenager can become a convicted murderer, forever linking his name to the brutal, senseless execution of 15-year-old Seth Jackson.
Because of your youth, though, you also have no concept of death.
A 19-year-old from Warren County, now the youngest person on death row in Ohio.
The idea that he has no worth or value as a human being, so better off euthanized.
For the brutal murder of a friend.
We have memories, but we will have no more with our son because of the...
Austin Myers, a young cat barely out of his teens, proved he was a total piece of work when he decided that friendship wasn't worth the price of quick cash. This case is gnarly because the victim, 18-year-old Justin Back, was Myers' own friend. Myers was completely off the rails with a sicko plan to rob the Back family home, and he decided the easiest slam dunk was hitting the house while Justin was alone. Myers didn't care that he had zero chill about setting up his friend. He was consumed by greed. He recruited an accomplice, Timothy Mosley, to help pull off the robbery and subsequent murder. No cap, Myers was the planner, the sicko who carefully set the stage for Justin Back to be executed. This level of cold-blooded betrayal is what makes the case so messed up, destroying a friendship and wiping out a young life over a couple of dollars.
He said, why? And please help. He said, please help. And then he
The plan Bargo cooked up was gnarlier than anything on TV. They successfully lured 15-year-old Seth Jackson to a vacant house, guaranteeing the ambush was a slam dunk. Seth walked in completely home free, having no clue he was stepping into a death trap designed by a crew who had zero chill. The moment Seth arrived, the straight savage beatdown began. He was jumped and beaten severely by the group. But Bargo, the sicko leader, wanted to ensure the job was a done deal. He retrieved a gun and shot Seth Jackson multiple times at close range, ending the 15-year-old's life in a brutal, cold-blooded execution. Bargo's friends were watching, confirming that the entire group was complicit in this horrific act. The violence was so extreme and the murders so senseless, all stemming from a petty dispute. This was a massive, unforgivable L for every single person involved, but most tragically for Seth Jackson, whose life was ripped away by an 18-year-old with a gun and too much rage. After the cold-blooded execution, the crew's next step was just as messed up. They decided to burn Seth Jackson's body in a fire pit to destroy the evidence. This action showed a shocking level of disrespect and zero chill for the life they had just wiped out. Their attempts at a cover-up or a total hot mess, proving that even though they were straight savage killers, they were terrible criminals. No cap, the entire group quickly started to snitch and spill the tea of each other almost immediately, crumbling under the pressure of the gnarly crime. It's hard to imagine the utter chaos. 6 teenagers involved in a murder and subsequent body burning, all cracking within hours. Bargo, the piece of work leader, thought he was untouchable, but the police swiftly collected enough evidence to ensure that this entire off-the-rails operation became a slam dunk case for the prosecution, guaranteeing they would all face severe consequences for their monstrous actions.
The jury had zero chill for Austin Myers after hearing the devastating details of the betrayal and murder. He was convicted of aggravated murder and other charges. He was convicted of aggravated murder, aggravated robbery, and kidnapping, a massive L that sealed his fate. The judge handed down the ultimate sentence: death. It was a done deal that solidified Myers' place as a murderer who traded his friend's life for financial gain. At just 19 years old, Myers was sent up to death row, the final consequence for his straight savage actions. His case is a constant, terrifying reminder that sometimes the biggest threats come from the people you trust most. No cap, Myers' journey from friend to mastermind killer, resulting in the life of Justin Back being ripped away, remains one of the most tragic examples of how greed and unhinged criminal ambition can permanently wipe out a future.
Jurors are getting to see this admitted racist and accused killer at target practice. Police say 22-year-old Dylan Roof recorded himself at home using the same .45 caliber Glock he's accused of using in the shootings at this historic black church. Families of the 9 people he's accused of murdering at a
Dylan Roof, barely 21 years old at the time of his conviction, was a dangerous piece of work driven completely off the rails by white supremacist ideology and hate. This case isn't just gnarly, it's a national tragedy, fueled by the sicko belief that he needed to start a race war. No cap, Roof was obsessed, filling his time researching hate groups and documenting his dark intentions online. He had zero chill for decency or humanity, viewing his plan as a necessary, straight, savage act. His target was chillingly specific: the Emmanuel AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina, a historic black church. This choice was deliberate, ensuring the attack would cause the maximum amount of pain and fear. Roof wasn't just planning a murder, he was planning a symbolic terrorist act designed to wipe out a fundamental part of the community. This premeditated hatred guaranteed that Roof's life was destined for a massive L the moment he pulled the trigger. The sheer cold-bloodedness of Dylan Roof's attack at the Emmanuel AME Church is unhinged. Roof walked into the church, a place of peace, and was welcomed into the Bible study group. He sat with his victims for an entire hour, participating, listening, and quietly planning the execution. This level of deception and zero-chill betrayal is what makes the crime so messed up. As the group closed their eyes for prayer, Roof stood up and opened fire, turning the sanctuary into a hot mess of carnage. He shot 9 innocent people, including the beloved pastor. He had no cap on his cruelty, making sure his victims were wiped out in the most brutal way imaginable. When one woman begged for her life, he told her he had to do it because black people were taking over. This straight, savage act was a slam dunk for mass murder, executed with horrifying calmness by a domestic terrorist.
What the shooter said before firing shots leads police to believe he killed the victims because they were black.
After the horrific mass execution, the entire nation was freaking out, and a massive manhunt was launched for the sicko killer. The Charleston community, though ripped apart by grief, responded with shocking grace and composure, praying for the victims even as they mourned. Roof was caught the next day in North Carolina after his sketchy car was spotted. When questioned by police, Roof showed his true colors: absolute zero chill and no cap on his motive. He confessed to the murders and chillingly explained that he did it because he wanted to start a race war. He confirmed he was not buying into any notion of remorse or regret. His confession was a massive done deal L that left the prosecution with a slam dunk case. Roof's shocking admission sealed his fate, confirming he was a calculated white supremacist who had deliberately carried out a terrorist act. Dylan Roof made a massive L in court by choosing to represent himself during the penalty phase of his trial, showing his continued delusion and unhinged commitment to his hate ideology. The jury had zero chill, finding him guilty on all 33 federal charges, including hate crimes resulting in death. The judge delivered the ultimate verdict: sent up for the death penalty. It was a swift, done-deal decision that reflected the profound, straight savage nature of his crime. Roof became the first person in U.S. history to be convicted and sentenced to death for a federal hate crime. No cap, his case stands as a powerful and dark reminder of the very real threat of domestic terrorism fueled by racial hatred, ensuring that his name is forever linked to the senseless tragedy that wiped out 9 innocent lives in a sacred place.
Lost. Out of sight. Please.
There's a shooting at Stanford. STEM School Highlands Ranch.
No access. Let's bust the window.
There's bullet holes in the wall.
There's bullet holes in the wall? Okay, we're coming. We're coming as fast as we...
Alec McKinney and Devin Erickson were a sketchy duo who decided that teenage resentment and personal drama were worth a straight, savage act of domestic terrorism. McKinney, only 16 at the time but tried as an adult, and 18-year-old Erickson were completely off the rails, fueled by shared grievances and dark fantasies. They felt messed up by peers at STEM School Highlands Ranch and decided their response would be a bloodbath. They planned the attack meticulously, showing absolutely zero chill for the lives of their classmates. They were not buying into any notion of getting help. They chose a path of destruction, arming themselves and plotting to unleash a hot mess of violence within the school. This decision was a massive, unforgivable L that guaranteed their lives would be permanently trashed. They were 2 piece-of-work students who traded their futures for a few minutes of unhinged rage, ensuring they became notorious killers. The moment Alec McKinney and Devin Erickson walked into STEM School Highlands Ranch armed, the situation immediately became gnarlier than anyone could imagine. The two executed a synchronized attack, opening fire in different areas of the school, showing they had no cap on their violent intent. The scene was instantly a hot mess, with terrified students freaking out and running for their lives. But amidst the chaos, a genuine hero emerged, 18-year-old Kendrick Castillo. Castillo was a good cat who, along with 2 other students, immediately charged the closest shooter, Erickson, making the ultimate sacrifice to stop the rampage. Castillo was fatally shot, but his brave, straight savage action provided the split-second distraction needed to save countless lives. The sacrifice of this innocent student is what stopped the done deal massacre from escalating further, proving that true courage can stand up to even the most unhinged evil. Once the shooting stopped, the police swarmed the school, quickly detaining both Alec McKinney and Devin Erickson. The evidence against the duo was a slam dunk, weapons in hand, witnesses everywhere, and the tragic body of Kendrick Castillo. Erickson immediately tried to snitch and spill the tea on McKinney, claiming he was manipulated, but the jury was not buying it. They had zero chill for excuses, seeing Erickson as a willing participant in the straight savage plot. McKinney confessed to planning the attack, confirming the entire operation was cold-blooded and premeditated. No cap, the overwhelming evidence ensured both teens were convicted of murder and attempted murder charges. The court process clearly demonstrated that both were off the rails and responsible for the mass violence, regardless of who claimed to be the leader or the follower in the deadly plan. The conviction brought a measure of justice to the community and the families of the injured. The judge delivered straight, savage sentences that sent a clear message. School shooters face the ultimate consequences. Devin Erickson, as the older defendant, was handed life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus over 100 years. His life is officially done deal. Alec McKinney, who was a juvenile when the crime was committed, was sentenced to life with the possibility of parole, plus 40 years, a massive L that guarantees he will spend decades locked up. The court wanted to ensure that the memory of Kendrick Castillo, the hero student who was wiped out saving his classmates, was honored with the maximum possible punishment for his killers. This entire tragic case, from the unhinged planning to the final sentencing, serves as a dark and powerful reminder of the devastation caused by those two students who decided to trade their futures for a moment of gnarly revenge.
Well, Taylor Parker has been sentenced to death for capital murder. She was found guilty of murdering 21-year-old Reagan Hancock as well as Hancock's unborn baby girl.
I found the woman this morning on the side of the road, and her baby had been removed from her body. And then you show up with a baby.
Taylor Parker was a certified piece of work whose life was completely off the rails because she was obsessed with maintaining a massive, horrifying lie. For months, Parker faked an entire pregnancy, showing pictures of ultrasounds and planning a fake birth for her boyfriend and family. No cap, the pressure to produce a baby was so intense that it drove her to commit a straight savage act of murder. Parker knew her sicko lie was about to unravel, and she had zero chill for the consequences of being exposed. She decided the only way out of this hot mess was to steal a baby, making her a predator obsessed with a gnarly plot. She began researching how to deliver a baby herself, showing she was prepared to commit a monstrous crime to save her reputation. This level of premeditated, unhinged desperation guaranteed that her life was destined for a massive, tragic L. The victim, 27-year-old Reagan Simmons Hancock, was just days away from giving birth when she crossed paths with the off-the-rails predator, Taylor Parker. Parker lured Reagan to her home and launched a straight, savage attack, proving she had no cap on her cruelty. Parker brutally murdered Reagan, leaving the mother for dead. But the horror didn't stop there. Parker then used a scalpel to cut the unborn baby girl right out of Reagan's womb, an act so gnarly it's almost unthinkable. The scene was immediately a hot mess, a clear slam dunk for capital murder. Parker didn't care about the mother she wiped out. She only cared about getting her hands on the baby to continue her monstrous lie. She fled the scene with the newborn, attempting to pass the stolen child off as her own. This level of calculated, cold-blooded violence makes Taylor Parker one of the most disgusting and messed up killers in recent memory. Taylor Parker thought she was home free after the murder and theft, but her cover story quickly became a total hot mess. She drove away and met her boyfriend, claiming she had just given birth on the side of the road. But the baby was not breathing, and doctors at the hospital quickly realized Parker was not buying into the truth. Medics found that Parker showed no signs of having given birth, leading the police to quickly launch a murder investigation. The scene at Reagan Simmons Hancock's home was a devastating slam dunk for investigators, confirming the brutal, straight savage details of the crime. Parker was immediately arrested. Facing the evidence, she confessed to the horrific, unhinged plot. No cap, the level of deception was shocking, but the truth revealed a predator who had meticulously planned the murder and theft of an unborn child just to maintain a lie. The jury had zero chill for Taylor Parker after hearing the devastating, gnarly details of the murder and baby theft. She was convicted of capital murder, an immediate, final L that sealed her fate. The judge delivered the ultimate sentence: death. It was a done deal that reflected the profound, straight, savage nature of her crime, murdering a mother and stealing her child. Parker was sent up to death row, the final consequence for her unhinged desperation. The courtroom was ripped apart by grief and rage from the victim's family, who witnessed justice served for the young mother and her baby. No cap, Taylor Parker's case remains a truly disturbing example of how far a sicko will go to maintain a lie, ensuring that her name is forever associated with a cold-blooded violence that wiped out an innocent woman and her child.
A man charged with fatally stabbing his roommate's girlfriend was on trial today for a different stabbing. Marcus Fishburne is accused of stabbing a fellow inmate in the neck at the Duval County
Marcus Fishburne, at just 18 years old, was a total piece of work whose sense of entitlement made him completely off the rails. Driven by a petty, sketchy dispute, likely over money or drugs, Fishburne decided he was entitled to rob 38-year-old Jason Fesperman. This wasn't some random beef. This was a calculated, straight savage plan, showing Fishburne had zero chill for resolving conflict peacefully. He recruited an accomplice, proving the entire operation was premeditated murder disguised as a robbery. No cap, Fishburne was so consumed by his greedy mindset that he willingly set the stage for a gnarly execution. He traded his entire future for a few bucks, believing he could commit a murder and get home free. This level of cold-blooded planning at such a young age guaranteed that the consequences for Fishburne would be a massive, life-altering L. The moment Marcus Fishburne and his accomplice confronted Jason Fesperman in his own home, the situation went from sketchy to done-deal horror. Fishburne, showing absolute no cap on his brutality, shot and killed the father of 3 during the robbery. But the horror escalated immediately. After the murder, Fishburne and his accomplice committed the ultimate act of disrespect. They doused the body and the house in an accelerant and set it all on fire. This wasn't just a crime. It was an attempt to wipe out the victim's identity and every shred of evidence, confirming Fishburne was a sicko. The calculated act of arson turned the scene into a massive, burning hot mess. This level of unhinged cruelty, destroying a home and a body to cover up a robbery, guaranteed that the prosecution would paint Fishburne as a straight, savage killer, deserving of the maximum penalty. Marcus Fishburne and his accomplice thought the fire would make them home free, but their cover-up was a massive L and a total hot mess. Despite the fire damage, forensic evidence quickly pointed to murder before the arson. The police immediately connected the dots, and the entire sketchy operation crumbled under the pressure. The evidence was an absolute slam dunk, confirming that Fishburne was the main force behind the gnarly execution and the subsequent arson. Fishburne was arrested, and, like the rest of the off-the-rails crew, the lies fell apart. He thought he could outsmart the law, but the cold, hard facts of the robbery, the shooting, and the deliberate destruction of evidence left the jury with zero chill. No cap, the overwhelming details of the case, especially the attempt to burn the body, cemented his place as a calculated, vicious killer. The jury had zero chill for Marcus Fishburne. He was convicted of first-degree murder, aggravated robbery, and arson, a final triple L that sealed his fate. The judge delivered the ultimate straight savage verdict, death. It was a done deal that reflected the cold-blooded nature of the crime, shooting a man and then attempting to destroy his body and home. At just 18 years old at the time of the crime, Fishburne was sent up to death row, his entire future officially ripped away. No cap, the case of Marcus Fishburne serves as a terrifying reminder of how quickly unhinged greed can turn a teenager into a calculated killer and arsonist, proving that the sicko decision to destroy a life over a petty dispute warrants the harshest possible price from the justice system.